Speaking how long you worked here at the hotel?
53 years.
Oh, 53 years. Hospitality, that's what the city's known for. Hospitality and good food, that's why I came here. We represent hospitality at its greatest. I'm asking the city council to help me to make sure that this man has a mural on the side of a prominent building and a statue on historic Armour Avenue of him. Please assist me with that. I understand still in. You deserve it, and y'all know it. Thank you, Steve. You want to say something really good?
Love your job before you love your job. You love yourself before you love anybody else.
Another special guest this afternoon is Mr. Curtis Brown from Atlanta, Ambassador. Oh my God, you talking about some good service. They give some good service to these people and visitors in this city. Poor brother. They'll be an honor this year. It's like a speaking for our 20th anniversary.
Real quick, just want to say I'm here to support Chef. I'm here to support the Soul Museum. Again, my name is Curtis Brown. I'm with the Atlanta Ambassadors. And I'm always in support of anything that comes to downtown Atlanta and enhances downtown Atlanta.
400 years, please. They're going to stop us. He's going to allow me to speak, but this gentleman knows that he's been downtown for years. How long have you been active in the city? 50 years. Over 50 years. So let me tell you when he stand up. Okay. This brother represents over 400 years of contributions to America through culinary arts, hospitality, service, and agriculture. Over 400 years. I want you to support his efforts. And I want you to know that. So when you become a member, when every one of you become a member, lifetime membership of the Soul Food Museum, you will know where the money's going. When I'm not going to get it in. So I spent $1,500 for each one of you to support it. I'm just telling you straight up. I'm not playing. I'm not calling a press conference. Because this don't make no sense. Support the efforts. Support our community. Thank you, God. Okay, sister. This heart has been around the city and so many people representing the hospitality and business community from their heart. Time to start. The big red heart represents our health mission.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All I ask you is, Mr. President, don't play with me. I'm serious. You got the experience of building museums in the city, and I want to thank you for doing part. You need to help me. We put you in outside program. And do right by the black lady. Do right by the social right by these black ladies. We work our hearts.
Next up is Gloria Gates in the room. Warren Johnson. 2 minutes.
Thank you, y'all.
Thank y'all for letting me come in and speak. What I want to speak about today is the we done covered some dark about our interim code enforcement department. Our interim code enforcement department have been colluding together with one of your council members that is the head of code enforcement. Let's suggest which one. Interim has been in charge of the demolition process in the city of Atlanta, which the meetings are not recorded, and the same bookkeeper is the same person that administered the meetings with the in-rem process. So I'm head of code enforcement in in-rem, and our council president, I'm sorry, not our council president, our chairperson of public safety and law department, did not let you know that the wife is a tax attorney with the department. No longer jail target, and Mr. Mark. All these people have been taking their properties in the interim process through code enforcement. So you wonder how your seniors are losing housing, and everybody losing housing, is the interim process and code enforcement working together, and we must stop that. So I'm asking all the councilmen that are on public safety, anything Mr. Hill push out of it, I'm asking the law department and everybody, please take a second look at it and hold that. This is how we are losing our property. They are running code violation procedures that they know on fixed income can't pay. And they're asking for the properties to be demolished. And if you look at the registered agent on all the demolition coming in District 9, it says Lindsay Walker Hills. And we have allowed him to be a chairperson 4 years in a row. Time's expired. I didn't see the time over.
We're having technical problems with the screen. They're keeping time over here. And I'm keeping it as well.
Last time I looked at it, wasn't even a minute. It was a show.
It's been 2 minutes, Mr. Robinson.
I respect the law department, public safety, please take an extra hard look at that.
Next will be driving tolerance. You'll have 4 minutes due to your time.
I'm keeping my 2 minutes break control, like Ms. Ford.
Who is that?
Is that the minute, Chair? I don't know how much time I have. 6 minutes, correct?
7, 8, 9, 10.
Good afternoon. My name is Rodney Mullins. I'm the past National Consumer Advocate for the Obama administration. I serve with the administration. I'm now volunteering with a great team of people that are fighting for their lives. They're fighting because we have a housing tsunami. We have a catastrophe occurring in West Atlanta, really all across the city. And today I want to give you 5 things that we can do to stop the pain of the people. 5 things that we can do. Today is about solutions. Because some of the pain that the people are encountering, the reason they're living in cars, the reason they're living behind stores, they're living out in tents, is because of legislation that was created in this body. So I'm trying to sound the alarm, I'm trying to remove plausible deniability. Because now you know. The first thing that you can do is, the council passed in 2020 an ordinance called the Source of Income Anti-Discrimination Ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Farooq. But there's no enforcement. There's no teeth in it. We have more enforcement for a stray dog than we do for a stray family. So right now, these families need support. They're stray because when you lose your home, they don't know where to go. And when we call the people that we volunteer with, when we call the Atlanta Housing Authority, they don't answer the phone. And the people are afraid. And here's why they are afraid. Because they're afraid they'll lose their vouchers, their housing choice voucher. They're afraid of you. Why should they be afraid of you? But they're afraid, and they told me, they said, why do you speak? Because we're afraid we'll lose our housing that's dilapidated, our housing that's roach infested, that's mildew, because we cannot get the Atlanta Housing Authority to move. We're asking this time, but I promise you, the people will not stop. If we have to go and do something else, we'll do it. But now we're asking you to be with us. We're begging you, but we Code 20-0-1155. Give teeth to it. Fine the landlords that discriminate against housing choice vouchers. If you stop that discrimination immediately, thousands of spaces will be freed up, and people could use their vouchers to secure housing. But right now they can't. Secondly, you implement rent control at the Atlanta Housing Authority. We're working on the state. We're working with the Honorable Gonzella James. We just worked with her to write a bill, SB 125, that we're trying to push through the state house. We know about the ban on rent control. We're trying to repeal that, and we're going to get it. We're going to get the repeal on ban control. But right now, here's what you can do, if you care. What you can do now, I want to honor somebody named Brother Shaheed Dubois, that you know, my dear Sister Rose. He didn't live to see us fight this fight. Shaheed Dubois was begging me to keep going, and I'm still going. Because he was struggling for housing himself, off of James Broadway. He was struggling for housing. So he wished to have these things, and I'm requesting that you support. They'll create immediate relief. Right now, that housing authority is selling property below market. Below market, everything, if they take every stitch of land that they have and dedicate the housing, we'll have enough land. Because then you'll understand that we're in a state of emergency. We are in a state of emergency. Law firms have come to me and said, Rodney, we're hiring extra attorneys because we expect 10 to 15,000 evictions per month. So they're hiring new attorneys. So we need to balance the scales. You can help me balance the scales. Because the people need to balance. Developers are winning. Developers tell me, they say, Rodney, we know what you're fighting against, but we're not worried about you, Rodney, because we're going to go to the council and get what we want. And I said, no, they're going to do the right thing. The other thing you can do is have means testing. And you guys know what means testing is. For the Atlanta Beltline, for you have means testing for it's inclusionary zone, I call it exclusionary zone. You have means testing for all the project units that you tore down. You tore down about 14 to 18,000 units, but you never replaced them. Affordable housing, please don't speak to low-income people about affordable housing, because it's 80% of AMI. 40% of the people in Atlanta make below $42,000. So when you place the focus on 80% of AMI, you never touch poor people. So who are you fighting for? That's means testing. Please allow means testing to happen. You can create a covenant with the land. Easy. So that when they sell any inch of public land, which is owned by these people, when they sell it, there'll be a covenant in that land that requires that 80% go to low-income, not affordable, but low-income poor people who are working in the stadium, who are working in your businesses, who are cooking the food, who are parking their cars, and they'll have a place to live. See, the covenants used to keep you out of housing. You used to have land covenants in Atlanta that forbid them from selling to brown people. So now let's flip it. Let's have a covenant that creates equality and justice. The other thing you can do is you can say that all land, every inch of land that we have, will be prioritized for housing. Because every city, every county has a land bank. You can reappropriate that land to house homeless people. You can incentivize them the same way you incentivize the stadium. The same way you incentivize the Falcons. The same way you incentivize Microsoft. Give those bonuses and those perks to the people. Level the playing field. Give the advantage to the people. Right now, they have a disadvantage. They feel powerless. And they feel you're not even going to listen. They feel the developers have a chokehold. According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the developers have said this is the best business they've done for years. The developers are saying they're having a playground here. So why not let residents have a playground? When have you ever seen a resident come and say, this is the great housing market, the best housing market in the nation? No, but developers are saying that. Give the people something to cheer about. The other thing you can do is you can allow tenants to have a voice. The tenants come to me. I was just at Atlanta Housing Authority meeting. They had a closed door meeting. So let me give you an example. The next time you buy a house, why don't I keep you out of negotiations for your house? Why don't I say, councilperson, I'm going to negotiate for you. I'm not going to allow you in the room. When we went there, the land housing authority would not allow us in the room. So the people most impacted are kicked away from the table. That's not right. We need a balance. Please give us that. Write a letter to the land housing authority. You appoint Ms. Terry Reed. She comes to this body. Mandate that everybody have an equal voice. Thank you. We'll just try to sound the alarm. When you hear it, please, or we'll take action.
Thank you, Mercy. Next will be Democrat. Due to the time, you'll have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, Councilperson. It's been some time since I was last here. For those who are not familiar, my name is David Franklin. I am with the Policy Council of Southern Third Human Rights. And similar to the last time I was here, I would like to speak to you all concerning the lease that you all allowed to take place under legislation concerning the Atlantic City Detention Center. For some matters of government, often boil down to what is politically expedient at the moment. For others, it's a constant assessment of actions that directly impact community and quality of life for all people. Last summer, dozens of members of the Community Over Cages Coalition, including myself, repeatedly invited back. Appearing before this council as it pondered what it could do to aid in alleviating overcrowding at the Fulton County Jail. We asked that members of this council keep its promise to convert the then nearly empty Atlanta City Detention Center into a health and wellness center that directly addresses what we know to be the systemic root harms encountered by those Atlantans who have the fewest resources, instead of taking a step backwards and continuing to use ACDC as a jail to house Fulton County's overflow of persons in custody. Subject matter experts such as myself came to you with well over a decade's worth of experience in Fulton County courts. I wasn't here just to tell you my thoughts and what I felt going on. I was able to tell you from my experiences working in those courts where the inefficiencies lie. Those inefficiencies lie in the slow and ineffective indictment processes that still exist to this day, and the issuing of onerous bond amounts that disparately impact poor persons by continuing to trap them in jail on charges where better money people can purchase them free. I think we're noticing the thing between a lot of things today that folks that might hate poor people. We told that legislation authorized evidence and making more jail beds available to Fulton County would not solve the problem. We told you that because of staffing issues with the Sheriff's Department, that the lease would effectively, essentially only allow the transfer of women from Union City to the ACDC campus. For those that don't know, there's a main jail with a main house. There's a separate campus at that point in time where women were housed in Union City. The women were moved from Union City, as we told you all that. We also told you that it would do little to alleviate the overcrowding concerns that were very important to us, but were politically expedient at that point in time for us. During our debate, there was a lot of hot air spewed. A lot of assertions were made that we essentially were trying to stall the process. It was asserted that two elephants were fighting, and that the grass was being harmed, and that somehow we were the ones that didn't care. That somehow people who made their careers off jailing people care more about the well-being of persons in the country than the formerly incarcerated women and the advocates who would build their career and advocate for those people. Today, I regrettably, but predictably, I'm here to report on the status of the jail lease. I'm not sure how many of you all who were really urgent about it at that point in time have cared to look into what status that was today. The men and women, the men that were languishing and suffering in council as a whole has failed in its efforts to protect persons in Fulton County custody, and your sincerity related to the true motivations of that piece of legislation is severely questioned. But all this is not lost. As I began my remarks, not every matter of government has to be a weight of political capitalism in the moment. You all are always free to act in a space that's love and its community, based in informed altruism. You have a head start. There was a Georgetown report, there was an ACLU report, there was the Absolute Jail Population Review Committee report that you all sanctioned. Thank you, Councilman Dozier, for that amendment. However, I came to council that day when that committee made their report findings, and I was sad to see that council is full today. We got a bunch of population going on, but there were not many people present when that report was read. So what am I asking you all to do? I'm asking you all to care in a moment with eyes on. And if I can put eyes back on you to do so, then I'm here to do it. What I'm asking is for you all to put action behind this legislation that you put together and make sure that the problem is solved, and not just pat yourself on the back for getting something good. As a council, and pursuant to what's admissible under the intergovernmental agreement, we encourage you to make weekly inquiries into the following. Complaints from people in Fulton County and ACDC custody about nutrition, conditions, and staff conduct. There were some protesters associated with the cop city movement who were arrested on charges and are in the facility. And we have been made aware that they have certain diet restrictions that are not being complied with, and no one cares to follow them. We're asking that you make weekly inquiries into any serious health-related issues related to people in Fulton and ACDC custody. We ask that the existence of any programs and services you believe will be available to people in Fulton County and ACDC custody, including the number of those enrolled, be reported on. We were told that this is a really great program for people to be able to work in the jail and learn how to work in the guys' jail. It was a whole show behind that. I would love it. We're asking that you make an effort and see if the work actually put behind those programs. Additionally, most importantly, you are giving your facility to people who are responsible for staffing the facility. And we are asking that you inquire on a weekly basis as to the current vacancies on jail staff in the Fulton County Sheriff's Department. This is not a matter of me just trying to have our action on our eye. Since the lease is going to affect Fulton County jail, Fulton County, Washington County. Last year, 15 people died in Fulton County custody in Atlanta's jail. To put it in perspective, I think Rikers Island, which is for all of New York City, had about 18 or 19 deaths last year. Atlanta's not south of New York. I don't need to last minute 45 on time, but perhaps you all can sit and think about it before the next person speaks. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Tracy Thornhill, followed by Alan Lee.
Good evening, Council. My name is Tracy Thornhill. I am the Executive Director of Ashland, Georgia, Local 1644. Earlier, we gave our proclamations. Well deserved to Dr. Denson. Well deserved to Abraham Thomas. Well deserved to 100 black women and to the schools, the middle schools. And I'm here to say today that we so quick to give our proclamations, and believe me, I have enough bestowed on me in the last 2 months, or some of you already know that. But what we got to get back to doing is appreciating those frontline workers that didn't get what was due to them last year. And we waited so we can get it this year. I'm here today to open your ears. Because from this point on, until the budget passes, I'm going to be right here in front of you. Because we've given significant increases to police, significant increases to fire, and they deserve it. But what about your watershed workers? What about your sanitation workers? What about your parks and recreation workers? What about those people on the front line? I wore my front line shirt today because I want y'all to understand that when you go out there, I'm retired now, but I got 33 years of hard labor on my back. And those people are going through the same thing, so I know what they're going through. I know I don't have much time. I'm not going to take 10 minutes to say what I'm going to say. I just need y'all to open y'all ears. I need y'all to hear me, because y'all will not stop seeing me until we get what we want.
Good evening, or good afternoon. It seems like it's evening time. Good afternoon, city council members. I am Manuel Tortuguita. I came really just to see old friends, check out a council meeting. This has been an interesting council meeting nonetheless. Let me make an unsolicited suggestion. Those that get 10 minutes, by all means, sign them up. Let them be heard. But please put them at the end in consideration for those who may want to speak just 2 minutes. You know, as I revisit the city of Atlanta, I see a great change in just 5 years. You know, I walked on the Beltline the other day. Didn't look like Atlanta. I'm seeing super gentrification. And I'm not here today to upgrade, downgrade, criticize nobody. I'm here today to say we're better together. And I heard somebody behind me say, I am. Well, I'm not. I'm solution oriented. And when this council's right, we should keep them right. And when they're wrong, we should have them find right. And that's applicable to our mayor as well. I think you're more right than wrong, but I also have some concerns about the direction that we're going in. And I'm going to be sharing some of those concerns with you. For the last week or so, I've been meeting with a number of officials, including some of you guys. I hear some of my friends and critics and like say, Alan's lost a step. We shall see. There's nothing wrong with the city of Atlanta that can be fixed by what's right with the city of Atlanta, and I think there's a lot of things right. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Reverend Darcy Jarrett. Is Reverend Allen on the list?
Yes.
Good afternoon, city council members. I'm an ordained Baptist pastor, so I do like it when people speak back to me, so I try to again. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm standing here today with the Faith Coalition. We are clergy and faith leaders. We are citizens, and we are protectors of the land that doesn't belong to us, but belongs to God. We are deeply concerned for our community members, for ourselves, and the implications for the future of public safety in the United States if this Cop City development goes forward. To ignore the cries of residents, you're moving forward to destroy the nation's largest urban forest and replace it with the largest militarized police training facility in Turtle Island, now known as North America. Despite a record-breaking amount of public comment on the facility, as I'm sure you know, you still pass legislation to build Cop City. And we are troubled by leadership that continues acting against the will of the people and instead aligning itself with corporate money and the dominant power structure. We're urged by this message of peace and compassion in all of our faiths, and we deplore this escalating militarization by city and state government, even as recently as last night. But not to diminish the killing of Rayshard Brooks here in 2020, 3 minutes from where I lived, by the Atlanta Police Department, and Tortuguita on January 18th. I'm going to move for the sake of time towards what we are asking. We are asking for all people of faith, those of you who sit on council regardless of your tradition or background, and those who stand with moral conscience, to stop the Cop City project. Yes. My faith convicts me and tells all of us that there is a better way. We have a prophetic moral imagination and opportunity here to do something different in Atlanta, to do something different for the South, and all eyes continue to remain on what will happen to Welanie's People's Park. We ask that you drop all the charges against the forest offenders, every single charge. Domestic terrorism must be investigated, but these charges are trumped up. We are requesting an independent investigation into the killing of our sibling, we say their name, Manuel Tortuguita, for which recently released video footage suggests there was lying and deceit around the incident on behalf of law enforcement in their initial reporting. Please investigate this. We're asking on all current and former city council members and mayors, including Keisha Lance Bottom and Andre Dickens, to listen to the voice of the people and your constituents. Rescind your explicit or tacit support for building Cop City. Finally, we're asking for a community process, Let us come together with moral imagination to envision how the Welanie River Forest can be the heart and lungs of community wellness and healing, not more militarization of police. Because if we have learned nothing else since the uprisings of 2020, we know, as people of faith, that we keep each other safe. Jesus himself charged and killed by the state, not for working with colonists and imperialists, but against the empire that he sought to overturn. Friends, there's a better way. We want a process that centers the voice and needs of Muskogee leaders and community members, our indigenous siblings, incarcerated folks, and surrounding prisons, families and neighbors who live in close proximity to the firing range and under police surveillance. We want holistic community safety, clean water, tree canopies, a future for every single one of our children. May it be so.
Thank you. Next will be Dennis Stevens. All right.
We have copies.
Right here. Take those and pass them out. Next will be Dennis Stevens. And then John Magnan.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is David Stevens, and in January 1994, I left rural southern Minnesota to head to New Bible Institute in downtown Chicago to be a youth pastor out in the wilderness. In March of 1994, while walking back from the church on the west side of Chicago, I was violently beaten by 5 young black men that then said, "Welcome to racism," that changed the course of my life. For these last 30 years, I lived in that neighborhood, and I've done everything I can to fight against the injustices that these young black men and our black and brown people face, family members face. I walked the streets, got to know the gang members, started a mentoring program. From there, I went to Cook County Jail for 18 years and started up a program called the Life Learning Dorm. At the Juvenile Detention Center, I spent 13 years as a victim impact panelist speaker, where we reached almost 7,000 young people a year. And for the last 8 years, I was a restorative practice coach for Chicago Public Schools, where our aim was to put a key in the pipeline to prison syndrome. A year ago, I relocated down here to Atlanta for a new chapter in my life. I reside in the Old Fort Board, just blocks away from Martin Luther King. And I'm here because there's a saying that says it's not always what you know, but it's who you know. And I know there's some who's up here right now that might be able to help direct my steps to where I can further out my passion. One of the things that I want to bring to the table is ICANN, where we can put a free tablet with free web service into the hands of our underserved youth and young adults. And so here I have a packet. I don't have enough for each of you, but I have a packet that gives you my resume. It gives you some letters words transformed my life, and I've dedicated it to be an advocate and a fighter for justice for my Black and brown family members. And my not-for-profit is called One Love, because we need what was spoken today a little earlier, a little more love. And so, I know I'm going to mess your name up, Mr. A, Mr. Muir. May I at least give you, thank you, Council.
Actually, you can just check, you can pass that for you. Thank you. Next will be John Vega.
Good afternoon, City Council. Last time I was in here, I came to discuss code enforcement and the interim procedures. I was alerted to one of the ordinances that's under discussion at the moment that proposes to impose a moratorium for 60 days to conduct an audit and include the internal and external communications of the way the interim process works. I've been involved in the interim process. It wasn't a pleasant experience. I spent a lot of time dealing with it. Didn't have a good outcome. Without going into that long drawn-out story, which details I brought to everybody here when I was here last time, I would like to voice my support, my partner's support. The interim process results in some cases properties coming down that perfectly shouldn't. I think the interim process, sometimes they work with blinders. Once the property's been authorized for demolition, there's no going back, there's no second chance, there's no meeting in the middle. I have to go through a TRO process to get a conversation going. I spent time, I spent money, and we're seeking engineering reports and architectural drawings to keep a property in place. This is a parcel in Councilmember Lewis's district over District 12. It's a vacant building with no roof, and because it doesn't meet code, the insistence is that it be demolished. So I'm here to encourage you to look closely at this ordinance, support it in any way you can, and hopefully the result of the audit and the findings can be implemented to result in what is being stated in the ordinance, to get that section of code enforcement, whose group has an incredibly difficult job, but to get that section up to a best practices level, like a lot of code enforcement is already out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Kiana Jones. Please move the timer up to 8 minutes.
Well, good afternoon once again to this Atlanta City Council. My name is Reverend Kiana Jones, and I stand here before you as a member of the Faith Coalition to Stop Hot City. And I'm looking at each one of your faces, and I really want to understand how it is that you ask people to vote for you and then ignore their voices. How it is that you feel okay with yourself lauding Abel Mabel, who had a lot to say about treating people right, who had a lot to say about the words of the Bible that many of you like to quote. Well, let me remind you of something. Be not deceived, for God is not mocked. That whatsoever a man sow, that shall he also reap. So understand this, that the sins of the father will be visited on the children. It has happened time and again. So it may not happen to you, but what about your child? What about their children? What about their children's children's children? What will your legacy be? You so-called legacies of blackness leadership sitting up here on this council. Let me tell you something. Representation is not enough when you don't represent the people who elected you. The people came out and spoke clearly. And let me go to the Bible one more again and say that we are here as clergy to cry loud and spare not. We are opening our mouths and crying with a loud voice to say that we don't want Cop City. I live in East Atlanta. I don't want Cop City. I got 5 black children. I don't want Cop City. I like breathing clean air. I don't want Cop City. I want to drink clean water. I don't want Cop City. I don't want Black Hawk helicopters landing around the corner from my house. I don't want Cop City. I don't
next will be Laura Kearns. She can't yield her time. She's got her time. She can take it to 8 minutes. She can go to 8 minutes. Who would you like to use your time to?
Jordan Harmon.
That's fine. Mr. Harmon, you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan Harmon, Fellowship Kiddos. It's all we are, like Kiddos, Muskogedos. Thank you, my name is Jordan Harmon. I'm Muskogee Creek from the Creek Reservation in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm a member of the Deer Clan and I descend from the Chiapa tribal town, which is originally located in the southeast United States, just a few miles north of here. I come from a dislocated people. I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you to the City Council for hearing us, sharing with us your Black leaders of Atlanta earlier today, and some words from the Honorable Abel Mabel really resonated with me, which is to tell your story or someone else will tell it for you. So what I've heard here today is a lot of residents of Atlanta trying to tell you their story about why this development in the Trishman Creek Park that's now known as the Lonnie Forest is hurting them. I also wanted to share my story and our history in this land. Here in Atlanta, this land has seen a lot of violence and a lot of trauma. And in 1832, when the tyrant Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, is when my people were forcefully relocated from this land to Oklahoma. And ever since then, this land has been under the stewardship of colonizers that have repressed the remaining Black and Indigenous relatives in this area. Some of our most traditional people have come here today to share with you, but they weren't able to stay the whole time today. And I wanted you to know that the Miko of our Pahlavi ceremonial grounds back home in Oklahoma has come here, where our original fire was started, and then it was taken all the way to Oklahoma. And now we want to bring it back to our land, and we want to start those fires again. Well, when we come back, we need a land to come back to. This is my first time coming back to visit my homelands. I wanted to visit here where my ancestors are as a spiritual and personal journey. I didn't want to come here to try to fight the violence that I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is from the residents is they need investment in housing and public spaces and not investment in further militarized policing. They want investment in the well-being of the incarcerated and not further violent incarceration of the well-being of the community members. Thank you, Mother. Chichas.
Next will be Neil Sardana. Neil Sardana is next.
Hello, Council. My name is Manuel Tortuguita. I'm here representing the National Sierra Club, the Georgia chapter of the Sierra Club, and the Progressive Workers Union, which represents union employees at 350.org, Sierra Club, and Greenpeace USA, and several other national nonprofits. And I'm here to read a statement on behalf of the Sierra Club, standing with those protecting our forests. The Sierra Club is horrified by the killing of an Atlantic forest defender known as Tortuguita by state police, and we continue to rise in solidarity with the movement to protect the Lonnie Forest. We reject the mischaracterization made by media and city and state leaders referring to the opposition of this project as terrorists and outside agitators. Thousands of Atlantans, many local organizations, including our local chapter, came together over the last 2 years to voice their opposition to this project to Atlanta's mayor and city council. They submitted public comments, sent emails to their representatives, organized marches and rallies, canvassed neighborhoods, and more. Despite these efforts, the mayor and all of y'all have continued to push this project forward, ignoring the will of the community. choosing to engage in violence by sending police to harass those protecting the forest. Now, a protester who is dedicated to defending a forest that is critical to the health of our communities has been killed. Shame on our leaders, shame on y'all for letting this happen. This is the first time in American history an environmentalist has been killed by the state. Your blood is on your hands. Your blood is on your hands. Y'all cooperated with the police to allow this to happen. The Sierra Club remains steadfastly opposed to this project. The blocking forest helps mitigate flooding, captures and sequesters carbon from the air, provides a tax exposure for air pollution, helps keep our city cool, will aid our efforts to stay on forest impacts on climate change. The Sierra Club believes that these measures should not be given up in order to build a training center that is unnecessary and unwanted by the local community. This project is also an embarrassing waste of taxpayer dollars and public resources. An attempt to appear tough on crime to corporate and wealthy interests rather than making meaningful investments in our communities. Sierra Club reiterates hope for the mayor and the city council
your time has expired.
for this project.
If you continue, I will not allow you back to council for another meeting. Please remain with your right to speak.
We also call
Please be seated.
investigation.
Thank you, Mr. Sudana. Time has expired. Next will be Rachel Allred. Rachel Allred, you have 2 minutes.
Go back to your seat before us. I really appreciate it. Must be your first time here, so I'm on your side as well. Okay, nice to meet you. Good afternoon, my name is Rachel Allred, King Arnold Street, April, Georgia, District 12. I came across the packet the other day that said October 3rd, 2022. After watching, I became very infuriated, disrespected, and deeply offended. It was a meeting where Atlanta had the opportunity finally to give the necessary respect to the sheriff of Atlanta, sheriff of Atlanta. I really don't like calling people out, but ignorance is something that I cannot excuse. Councilmember Bakhtiari, Councilmember 1, I don't know if y'all are historians, or if you guys forgot, but you represent Atlanta. So your opinion turns into legislation, and your opinion will never be superior to someone who actually lived through the conditions of, well, y'all don't know about either, even the slums of Atlanta. Yeah, y'all don't know about that type either. So, anyway, you will never have the opinion that would be superior to someone who actually lived that life. So, council members don't ever speak over the president by arrogantly interrupting Mr. Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn said that it was not the appropriate time. I don't know if y'all are historians, but this is precisely the moment and is appropriate. Because opportunities that don't come like this for very often for Atlanta. You both completely messed up the legislation. So again, don't ever think that your opinion regarding situations that have nothing to do with the life that you've lived would be ever superior to Mr. Bonds, Antonio Lewis, Overstreet, Ms. Boones, even Ms. Norwood knew what was going on. So I just hope that you guys, as leaders, will get the other people who also voted no to step up. Thank you, Ms. Norwood, for understanding what's going on. You clearly are new here, so nice to meet you as well. Your opinion will never be superior to the people who are actually living that life. So please let this be the last time. Yes,
yes, I do find it very interesting that a white person's coming here trying to educate people on Black history, but we'll put that aside for a minute. So I'm absolutely clear.
Yeah, because you were wrong. I don't think you were allowed to talk back to me. I don't think you were allowed to talk back to me. I think you were allowed to talk back to me.
to try to educate people on your history. You have every right to stand up and say something. This city did you wrong, that you never should have been expanded, and I'm so sorry that it happened, and my God, if shit comes back in here, I'm happy to keep having the conversation that mass incarceration is never the answer to solving incarceration.
Next would be do you have time? You'll have 6 minutes.
All right, a lot of these things here. Hi, boss members. My name is Mike Hurston. I'm a public policy associate at the Southern Center for Human Rights. You've already heard today from clergy, environmental organizations, concerned community members about why the attempt to build Cop City must be halted immediately. But I want to speak today about a recent killing, the police killing of a forester by Manuel Tortuguita Terán in the city hall response to it. So in January of this year, just a couple months ago, as part of a joint police raid in the forest that included your officers, the Atlanta Police Department, Georgia State Patrol opened fire on and killed a forest offender, Manuel Tortuguita. Immediately, the GBI began to spin the story, telling the public why Tortuguita deserved to be shot over 12 times, this 26-year-old person. That was a story from the GBI that went unchallenged by those in power, including many of those on this council, who are often willing to comment on police violence in other cities, but have been completely silent on it when it happened here in Atlanta. There was immediate skepticism from many regarding the GBI narrative because, as all too recent history has shown us, the most common thing police do after they kill is they lie. And they tell us why actually this person deserves to be killed by the police. We've seen it time and again, and you all know that. Just a couple weeks later, despite the GBI statements, APD body camera footage came out in which APD officers were seen speculating, as confirmed by GBI, that the trooper who was struck during the January raid was actually the victim of friendly fire. That again went completely uncommented by this body, who so often claims to care about police violence. To date, almost no information has been released about the actual event or the details that resulted in a precious soul being taken from this earth at the age of 26. As the body, you all that authorized this project where someone was killed, you have a responsibility not just to completely pause and halt the project, but also to provide some basic transparency around the actual circumstances of this killing. Your officers were involved in taking somebody's life, and again, it's been done with science. Southern Center can provide a full list of the things that you all will be providing, but to name a couple, we need all law enforcement agencies, officers, and identification numbers released. We still need that information about who was on the ground at the time. This is a complete application of duty. Likewise, the public deserves to know which agencies planned to carry operations, which agencies led it. There should be a release of all body camera footage available, both audio and visual, from all law enforcement agencies that were on the site, as well as any agencies involved in any arrests of anybody on the scene. These are all basic, simple things that cities should be doing in the wake of police killings, and again, it's been complete silence thus far from this council. Again, there's more we can share on the exact things that you asked for, or that you can ask for and that you promote for the public. But I want to say that the lack of transparency around this killing of Tortuguita is the same lack of transparency that's occurred throughout this entire process. The Community Stakeholder Advisory Committee, which had been entrusted supposedly to collect input, was basically just dismantled because it was such an obvious sham. The Supporter Report has done incredible reporting on this. The city's not even using it anymore, and they're creating a new task force because I guess that's what you do when you don't get the information you want from the first Community Advisory Committee. At the same time, we're seeing sweeping repression, mass arrests, overzealous criminal prosecutions. Over 40 people have been charged with domestic terrorism, many of which have been for things that are not really to no more than criminal trespass, which is what people who just got proclamations have themselves been arrested for. And now we're charging them with domestic terrorism. You all are people who can recognize that on its face is ridiculous. Charging protesters as part of the social movement with domestic terrorism is a dangerous sign of where things are going when it comes to police repression of our movements. This should all be deeply concerning to you as council members, and I will tell you they are concerning to many national human and civil rights organizations who are flooding in to monitor the situation because they are seeing that despite the way that Atlanta likes to talk about civil rights history, It has completely disregarded the civil and human rights of its people. You've already received a letter sent by the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Southern Center for Human Rights to the United Nations body charged with evaluating nations on police violence. People are watching. All eyes are in Atlanta, and they're not going anywhere. There are thousands of people here for the week of action. This is the 5th week of action. You've seen clergy, community members, preschoolers marching through the streets who are near the site, environmentalists, abolitionists, activists from all over who are committed to stopping Cop City. This is not a problem that's going to go away if you are able to remain silent about it for long enough. This is the body that authorized the creation of this facility. This is the body that authorized the creation of a facility where someone has not been killed. At the very least, you all can recognize that it's time to pause and halt this project, do a full, transparent, independent investigation, and call off Cop City.
Thank you. Next will be Satya Balti, or Bhakti, sorry.
Hi everybody, my name is Satya Bhatti. I'm a nurse and also an organizer with the PSL, Party for Socialism and Liberation. And I'm here today with many from the community to demand that the city immediately end its support for the Cop City project. Stop Cop City now. Cop City is a project of oppression, death, police terror. A project to further militarize the police to suppress the mass social movements of millions of people that we will see in this country in the coming years. We will see millions of people rise up against deepening poverty and poverty wages in the richest country in the world, against endless U.S. wars, against climate change, against the right-wing attack on our democratic rights and more. In the summer of 2020, 37 million people protested in the streets in the wake of the police murder of George Floyd, demanding an end to police terror, the real domestic terrorism and white supremacy. And one clear demand emerged from that rebellion across the country, which was defund the police. The billions of dollars that can be used to fund people's needs, housing, healthcare, education, childcare, are being pumped into criminalizing the poor, oppressed communities, and those fighting the many injustices facing working class people. Instead of defunding the police, politicians of both parties have doubled down to fund police departments even more. Cop City is extremely unpopular among the people of Atlanta and beyond, but the popular will of the people is being ignored. What we have here are politicians who ignore the interests of the people and in the end protect and serve the interests of the ultra-rich, the capitalists, and the corporations. What we see here is not a people's democracy. This is a farce. This is a democracy where the rich, working class people like us will have a say in people's democracy. We will not stop fighting injustice, no matter the consequences. Drop all the charges on the protesters. Stop Cop City now. Defund the police and racist mass incarceration. We are not asking, we are demanding. The people of this city demand this of you. So do it. Do your damn job.
Next is Vigo Siobhan Colonel. Vigo Colonel. Next is Leo Sage Allen. Had to leave. Jody Williams. I can't quite. Williams.
I yielded my time.
Oh, thank you. Matthew Johnson. Matthew Johnson. Barbara Antonopoulos.
I turned 70 last week, and
is Jacob. I was one of the people who gave a comment before Cop City was authorized. Most people have hours and hours standing against it, so I'm not going to come here today and tell you that I oppose it, because you know that I oppose it. You know that the people oppose it. That's not a question. You're not confused about that. You're not still looking at the data. You know people don't want the city, the Cop City. So I'll tell you what is happening, though. Just the other day, I was listening to a podcast and people who live out west, and they were saying, we have to fight against police in our towns so we don't end up like Atlanta. They were saying, so we don't end up like Atlanta. And they were joking and talking about, oh, they turned into RoboCop over there. They turned into that city is just run by cops. They're militarized. They're running like some kind of futuristic fascist hellscape over there, because that is what they have turned it into. So I'm not going to beg you to stop Cop City, because we already did that. We already talked about that. You know we don't want it. You know people don't want it. You know what it's called. You know it's something called blood. I'm going to tell you what you have caused already. I'm going to tell you that we are being laughed at by the rest of the United States, and that people are disgusted with the actions that have taken place here, and that the people of Atlanta are disgusted with what is happening here. And I just say this. Whether you build it or not, whether it gets built or not, we will keep fighting. If you build Cop City, we will fight to take it down. If it stands for 10 years, then we will fight another 10 years to take it down. That building might be built. You might do what you want to do with it, but we will keep fighting it, and your replacements will be rid of it, or their replacements, or when we take power, we will get rid of Cop City. I'll tell you that. You might as well get rid of it now, because that building is a waste of time. When all is said and done, the forest will return. So I'm going to tell you right now, don't waste your time. Stop Cop City right now, because that land has always been forest, and it will be forest when all is said and done. I don't know if it's going to happen in the next 2 years, or I don't know if it's going to happen in the next 100 years, but we are going to make it happen. If it has to be our children fighting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Manuel Tortuguita.
My name is Nat Iasana. I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I'm here to demand to stop Cop City. Stop its construction now. The majority of people in Atlanta oppose Cop City, and yet you're choosing to dedicate $90 million to monuments of violence, racism, and corporate interests. In 2020, 37 million people took to the streets across the United States demanding an end to racist police brutality. And what did this supposedly anti-racist government do? But double down in funding the police, who have terrorized the black community in LA, who terrorize working class people, who terrorize the homeless, who get away with cold-blooded murder, who escort people from their homes to uphold mass evictions. This is a disgrace. This is a disgrace. The police protect property and profits, not the people. The purpose of this project is to repress people's movements, to repress the righteous demands of working class people. And it's absolutely undemocratic that people are speaking out, have been speaking out, have been fighting to stop this construction, and still the city council pushes ahead using taxpayer money, using people's money to continue this construction. The police have already murdered an activist, someone who believed that people should be first, who believed that the environment and the planet should be prioritized. That fundamental, and we're here to demand that these fundamental needs should be protected. That's what this money could be going toward. Ensuring livable housing for the people of Atlanta. To stop landlords from squeezing low-income tenants for pennies. For fixing the crumbling infrastructure. You allowed the level 1 trauma center to close in this city. Right. Because the corporation decided that the health of the people is not as important as corporate profits. And that's what this is again. Again and again, you put corporations ahead of the people. The city council should be ashamed to respond to the decision of fund Cop City. Drop all charges against the activists. Stop Cop City.
City Council, Council President, my name is Manuel 87 Clay Street, Southeast. I'm just going to read a letter that I sent December 27th, and it still applies. There is pleasure in impactless woods, Lord Byron. This line of poetry is specific. There is no experience akin to walking or being in the woods, and more specifically, a woods earliest inhabitants to the use of common labor. Now we are in a serious battle over the future of the forest. What is the highest and best use of the 3,500 acres that is home to waterways, native plants, shrubs, trees, birds, and all sorts of animals that inhabit Wauwani? I am writing a personal letter to express my desire for the city to preserve and protect the land. I've resided in my home in District 5 for the past 10 years. I've purchased my home before investors bought up Kirkwood. After living a decade in two major cities, I returned back home. Born in Georgia Baptist, my first year of life was on Cleveland Road. My family moved back to a small town. We were in Georgia. And in my backyard was a grove of pine trees. Those trees became my earliest friends. I spent a lot of time in the forest, as much time as with my cousins, pets, and boys. Those days playing amongst the forest, the pine trees instilled a lifelong reverence for nature, a boundless imagination and curiosity. It is well researched the need of nature for a child's development. The last child in the woods by Richard Lou provides great insight for these learnings. Currently, the forest is 8 miles from where my mother and husband live. There are a lot of senior other Black folks in their 70s and older who diligently work a lifetime being Stop cities.
Next is Jay Spotted Wolf.
Thank you, Council. My name is Jay Spottle. I'm an enrolled member of Manda Undergrad and Council Nation. I'm also a member of the Seminole people of the Clergy, or what you know as the Sioux Nation. Over 1,000 citizens die at the hands of police every year. 1,096 last year alone. The average death rate for police is in the 40s annually. And most of those deaths are accidental. Officers hit by a car while helping a motorist, or a firearm accidentally discharged with a fatal bullet. It is riskier to be a citizen in this country than it is to be a police officer. Literally, statistically. As evidenced by the rape kits that sit on discovery shelves of police departments across the country, police don't solve crime. And as evidenced by the fact that we still have crime in this country, police also do nothing to prevent crime. So we pay the taxpayer dollars for officers to harass, injure, and violate constitutional rights. Every protest I've been to, I have not had a weapon, I have never been violent, I've been standing there with a megaphone and taken into jail. We pay those dollars because officers destroy families by taking parents and care providers out of homes and into correctional facilities, compromising further the working poor and Black and brown bodies that officers perpetrate violence on the most. We pay officers to be violent and complicit in the murder of each citizen they murder, and you guys continue to ramp up funding for police to terrorize your community. Plain and simple, there's no argument in that debate. Police is the 22nd most dangerous job in America. Linemen, oil derrick riggers, and police pizza delivery people are statistically more dangerous than police working in the United States. The strange facility will not make citizens safer, but will give police more weapons, more training, and more protocol to be highly trained assassins. Countries like Portugal have proven how investing in community first strategies can reduce property damage, alcoholism, addiction, boost employment rates, slow incidents of physical violence in their communities, and incrementally supported higher and higher rates of all markers and standards by which the UN dictates a community is flourishing and thriving rather than floundering under state oppression and violence. There are many other examples of how housing first and funding money to the people and away from the violent institution of policing have proven that it holds for state and social basic communities, none of which police have any hand in promoting or establishing. The money invested in cop city would be hugely impactful in breaking cycles of generational trauma and poverty invested in housing first, food access, early and secondary education, community centers, mentoring programs, and safety nets to keep your most marginalized people from suffering the fate that is very, very broken, dysfunctional, American, racist dream. Thank you.
Next will be Eric Reed. Eric Reed.
How are y'all doing today? My name is Eric Reed. I'm a resident in District 1. So, in school I learned how faith helps the society collectively decide what is important for everyone collectively. And for example, I was was raised Protestant. In Protestant beliefs, we generally follow the life of Jesus Christ, and we base our actions around his actions, just as an example. Today, I call the Atlanta City Council to collectively decide what is important to the city of Atlanta. What is more valuable, breathable air or toxic tear gas? What is more valuable, parks for children to play or ranges where bullets to fly? Cop City, the training facility, is said to fight crime. Imagine what crime will look like when clean water becomes too expensive for the working masses. What will crime look like when clean air is no longer a human right, but is a commercial product that can be bought and sold? Yield power to the people of Atlanta. We will not wait for permission, but we are here to demand it. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Pangiani Soltis. I received a sheet late. I know you wanted to give time, Mr. Arnold. I apologize.
That's okay. Say you didn't need it. My name is Manuel Tortuguita Terán. I'm with the Center for Biological Diversity. I drove about 10 hours to take part in protests this weekend, and I helped gather signatures for a petition to be circulated for thousands of people all across the country. And if that makes you want to call me an outside agitator, then that's fine with me. Because I've traveled all over the country fighting environmental justice and for wildlife protection. And I've also called on people to come and help support fights where I live in Florida when we have threats against the watershed in the Northeast Everglades from developers. In many cases, the same developers that are responsible for projects like this happening in the South River Forest. The same business interests that are gentrifying neighborhoods and clearing forests are very frequently the same investors and contractors and cities all over the country. So we all have a vested interest in that way. And I've been grateful to be able to call on the environmental movement and people of social conscience to come and be involved in organizing and protecting places that I love, where I live. And so I try to do the same. And I would like to hope that it would be welcomed and invited by people who care about the community and the place where they live. Your constituents put the calls out to invite people to support this work, and that's why I came, because people who you're supposed to represent were asking for help because their representation was not being respected. So, I think you have the power to rescind the permits for this development, and in not doing so, and allowing a violation of what could have been a further, in this case, an injunction to ensure further environmental review, because there's a strong allegation that this development is going to violate the Federal Clean Water Act by further degrading an already imperiled watershed. That could have stopped construction. There could have or should have been nothing on the APF development site to be destroyed over the weekend. And that's on you guys to allow that and invite that. And I think that you've heard very clearly from people that live here, people who live all over the country, that you can do something different. And if you don't do it, people that come after you can do something different.
Yes, tell me your name.
My name is Melissa Hebrew. I think you pronounced my name wrong.
Yes. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't read it anyway.
That's fine. I'm here today to speak on the homelessness in Atlanta. Because basically, in my community, I have people living under the bridge as of right now with a tent, with all of their belongings. Pat has been called. Pat is doing a little, but not a lot. A lot of people do not want to go into shelters. I do not know why, but they do not. So how are we addressing that concern and that issue? It is running rampant in Atlanta, too rampant at that. Homelessness look different nowadays. You have people who sleep in their cars with jobs. You have people who sleep in their jobs now who can no longer stay in their homes because of that high cost of rent and inflation in the city of Atlanta. Atlanta is named amongst all 50 states of the highest homelessness rates in the country. For this to be a black union city, we're not unified at all. I'm seeing half the blacks that are out here, we have different cultures that are homeless. with SOS. I'm not always on TV. I don't care to be on TV. I don't care for no picture. I don't care for any of that. If we're going to address it, we need to be out there actually addressing the people. I talk to homeless people. I have met people who have master's degrees who can't even get a job because that's why they don't have address or they don't look the part. They don't have proper clothing. They don't have proper health care. They don't have any of these things that require them to get a job. So what is the City of Atlanta Council doing about these issues? I'm quite sure y'all see the homeless people standing right down the street, from right here. You walk past them every day. I'm quite sure none of you all say, hey, how you doing? What's your story? But you walk past them every day, because I see them every day. I can call out every neighborhood, every last one of you all, where they sit and where they are right now. And I'm wondering if any of y'all can do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank everyone who came out from the public stage to provide their comments. We now move to the report of the journal, Madam Deputy Clerk.
My name is Walter David, Secretary of the City of Atlanta. I certify that the action minutes of the February 20, 2023 regular meeting of the Atlanta City Council are true and correct.
Are there any objections?
They said you missed somebody else.
Well, let's just say nothing. What's your name? Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I know you know this is my name. When I'm like your business thing. I appreciate it though. And I thank y'all for earning me today. But I want to talk about, y'all already know, as I come here, talking about buying city exam in the West End about all this homelessness. But the other day, a young lady came to me. She got 4 children. Her furniture ended up on the streets. Where her children are, where they going, she don't know. But I'm quite sure as I come up here, every year, year after year, and I've been telling y'all this equality y'all sold out to the developers. I said a fact, y'all was gonna bring crime in our communities. Now I see the citizens, they got to walk in the daytime with the police walked in post office, but they can get back home safely. I seen a white man, 3 young men jumping on him real bad on Martin Luther King. An elderly white man. And I called the police, but look how long it took them to get there. Y'all need to get together and find housing in our communities. Get our youth off the streets. Y'all can still save the babies. If y'all can't save the rest of them, I ain't talking about putting them in jail cells and hiding away from their families where they can't go visit them and see them. We put y'all in these seats. The people put y'all here. And we didn't put y'all here for nothing. We put y'all here for a reason. Now we heard a voice. First thing y'all come out your mouth is affordable housing. I don't want affordable housing. Affordable mean a business or anything. That's what people get misled. We need to go income housing. We need what we had in our communities, Valley City, Indigenous Avenue, West End, where people were having family units, joining together, having all kinds of events. And they unified as one. These children don't need to be on the streets. These parents' babies don't need to be on the streets. I'm talking to all y'all. You know, half y'all is black. And over half y'all is part of us. So don't disown us. We put you there.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out today. Madam Deputy Clerk, let's start again. You report the journal, please.
I, Vanessa Walden, Deputy Municipal Clerk of the City of Atlanta, hereby certify the action minutes of the February 20, 2023 regular meeting of the Atlanta City Council are true and correct.
Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to adopt. Moved by Councilman Juan, is there a second? Second by Councilman Winston. Any discussion on the motion to adopt the minutes? We do this in unanimous consent without objection. Any objections to the motion to adopt the minutes? Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count unanimous consent.
Unanimous for a term of 2 years. 23C 5038, a communication from Tanya Greer, County Clerk, to the full